On Zrania, they could really make a move. After the Lions wound up losing it on Saturday in that divisional round. And so they do getting their guy in Ben Johnson. And you mentioned the Raiders there with the big push. And Tommy and I were talking when we found out this breaking news was happening that you reported Ben Johnson going to the Bears there. The Raiders right now don't have a quarterback. And the Bears have Caleb Williams. How much was Caleb Williams, do you think, a deciding factor for Ben Johnson that he is in that position? And how much better do you think Ben Johnson can get Caleb Williams in the NFL? Well, look, first of all, Ben Johnson has been one of the best offensive play callers in the entire NFL. I know a lot of folks are probably going to hold the last game against him and Jamison Williams. Trick play, etc., etc. I don't hold final games as coordinators against potential head coaches. It will be very interesting to see how Ben Johnson is as a head coach. We heard from him earlier in the week where he admitted he was far more prepared during these head coach interviews 2 years ago. Carolina probably would have just handed him over a contract and said, "Sign, we'll take you." And then last year, the Washington Commanders very interested in Ben Johnson. He didn't have the job necessarily, like he probably had the Carolina one the year earlier, but they were very interested in talking with him. And then he ultimately decided to stay with the Detroit Lions. This year it became clear that he wanted a job, that a job would be his if he wanted to walk down that aisle with a team. What can he bring out of Caleb Williams? First of all, you're obviously going to need some stability. He's going to have to be that quarterback whisperer for Caleb, and he's going to have to build out a staff that will support Caleb. That, of course, is going to cater to what he does well, which is something that maybe the Bears didn't necessarily do last year. And in the last offseason, I can tell you on the defensive side, one name to certainly keep an eye out on is former Saints head coach Dennis Allen. He could be a defensive coordinator in a number of places. He also could very well be a defensive coordinator with the Chicago Bears, another sort of staff hiring that I wouldn't be surprised by. I don't know if it's going to happen necessarily, but some sort of veteran head coach to be an assistant or associate head coach with Ben Johnson, someone who can kind of usher him in a little bit to what it means to be a head coach. He has watched Dan Campbell do it. He's taken notes plenty over the last couple of years, but it's a lot different being in that seat, being in that chair, and having someone on your side who can help guide you through that process, I think could be very beneficial to Ben Johnson now that he's in Chicago. Ben Johnson, just 38 years old, going to be a first-time head coach. You mentioned those head coach openings. The dominoes are going to start to fall fast with Mike Vrabel going to the Patriots, now Ben Johnson going to the Bears. You reported earlier, not only, is Ben Johnson probably going to be leaving and is now leaving the Lions, but also their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn. He could potentially be looking at the Jets and the Saints there. How quickly are these dominoes going to fall? And what do you think is the next one we see? So Aaron Glenn is going to meet with the New York Jets on Tuesday in the New Jersey, New York area. Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, he was actually at the inauguration today, so that is going to pick up tomorrow. At some point after that, if the Jets let him leave, he is supposed to meet with the New Orleans Saints. Aaron Glenn played for the Jets. He coached for the Saints. And so both of those teams very, very interested in Aaron Glenn. There is no question at all about it with the Saints. There's a lot of familiarity, right, with Aaron Glenn. He was just there a few years ago. Plenty of players that he had worked with. Certainly a front office that he is very comfortable with, led by Mickey Loomis with the Jets. While there is probably some tug to yesteryear, no question. Okay, who's going to be your quarterback? Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers, or is it going to be someone else? You could probably argue they certainly have a lot better younger talent with Gangrene than maybe in New Orleans. What is your runway going to be for success if things are a little bit of a struggle in these first couple of years? What's your relationship like with ownership?